You are listening to WTUZ Radio Podcast. Welcome to WTUZ Radio Podcast. I am your host, Rhonda. Minding my own business. And this ran across my feed. I guess it's time for me to give an update. This particular podcast, I'm going to call it Rona and Your Rights and Privileges. So, as you can see, this came out today. France passes law that makes a Rona health pass required for dining and travel. This is off of npr.org. Paris, France Parliament approved a law early Monday requiring special virus passes for all restaurants and domestic travel and mandating vax for all health workers. Both measures have prompted protests and political tensions. President Emmanuel Macron and his government say they are needed to protect vulnerable populations in hospital as infections rebound and to avoid new lockdowns. The law requires all workers in healthcare sector to start getting vaxxed by September 15 or risk suspension. It also requires a health pass to enter all restaurants, trains, planes, and other public venues. It initially applies to all adults, but will apply to everyone 12 and older starting September 30th. To get the pass, people must have proof that they are fully vaxxed, recently tested negative, or are recently recovering from Rona. Paper or digital documents will be accepted. The law says a government decree will outline how to handle vax documents from other countries. The bill was unveiled just 6 days ago. Lawmakers worked through the night and the weekend to reach a compromise version approved by the Senate on Sunday night and by the National Assembly after midnight. The rules can apply through November 15th, depending on the Rona situation. Macron appealed for national unity and mass vax to fight the resurgence of Rona and lashed out at those fueling anti-vax sentiments and protest. About 160,000 people protested around France on Saturday against a special Rona pass for restaurants and mandatory vaccination for health workers. Many marchers shouted liberty and said the government shouldn't tell them what to do. Visiting a hospital in French Polynesia afterwards, Macron urged national unity and asked, "What is your freedom worth if you say to me, I don't want to be vaxxed, but tomorrow you infect your father, your mother, or myself?" While he said protesters are free to express themselves in a calm and respectable manner, he said demonstrations won't make Rona go away. He criticized people who are in the business of irrational, sometimes cynical, manipulative mobilization against vax. Wow. So you think folks saying they should have a right on what they put in their body, it's being irrational and cynical and manipulative. But yet, what we're seeing among these governments around the world, we're seeing coercion, we're seeing bullying, we're seeing isolation, we're seeing bribing, all the way down from money, all the way to really an illegal substance at the Fed level, because that's what you all said marijuana is, but yet that was being offered at the state, some of the state levels, as an incentive to get the vax. But the protesters are being irrational, cynical, and manipulative. Among those organizing the protests have been far-right politicians and extremists, members of France's Yellow Vest movement, tapping into anger at Macron's government. Okay, so remember what I'm reading from, fam. This is NPR. And you do know that NPR slides heavily to the left. Now, let's be clear. I don't care about the right nor the left in general. It is about the truth. And we said out the gate that this whole thing was suspicious to us. And now it's to the point where they're trying to enforce the public to take something into their body that they don't want to take into their body. And if you don't do it, then I'm going to take away your right to travel. I'm going to take away your right to go to this event, to that event, to restaurants. What are we, children? More than 111,000 people with Rona have died in France, which is registering about 20,000 new infections daily compared to just a few thousand earlier this month. Concerns for hospitals are resurfacing. All right, so again, this came off of NPR today. France passes law that makes a Rona health pass required for dining and traveling. All right. So, family, we really need to continue. Excuse me, you all. I'm sorry. Seems like every time I get ready to record, my allergies want to act up. I apologize for that. So, we really need to pay attention to this, because now it's to the point of they're trying to enact enforcement. Okay. So if that is allowed to go through, they're basically telling you, you have no rights over your own body. And the sad part about it, the people that did get vaxxed, now they're swinging back around and saying there's another string and that they would have to be updated. Wait a minute. That even more solidifies folks that don't want to be bothered with it at all. And let's not forget, we ain't forgot now. Ain't nobody done set up here and forget about Fauci's emails. We ain't forgot. Because what was revealed in those emails were exactly what the quote early conspiracy theorists said was going on about the origins of Rona. And the same thing is happening now to folks that refuse to get the jab. Those same early out the gate warners on the origins of Rona were ostracized. They were mocked. criticized and had their channels, their social media channels taken away from them. Only for what they said to surface in said Fauci's emails. So we have every right to be suspicious. We have every right to say, no, we're not with that. We don't want to be bothered. We have that right. Now, what's scary to me, now this is just me, what's scary to me, why the push? Why are they pushing so hard for this? Why the push? I recently heard someone say they weren't even pushing this hard when AIDS hit the scenes. They weren't pushing this hard for folks to wear condoms and abstinence. They weren't threatening and all of that. They weren't putting all those restrictions in place. Go get tested, etc., etc. What's different now? Okay, yeah, you can say death, but those other things bring death also. So yeah, we have a right to be concerned. We have a right to say, no, we don't consent. We have a right to say, this is my body. You cannot tell me what to put into my body. Okay? So now, according to their standards, the mask is supposed to protect, right? According to their standards, the jab is supposed to protect, right? So what difference would it make if other folks aren't getting the jab? Let's go to what's going on in, where are we at, y'all? Australia. Australia been off the chain, y'all. This is out of Yahoo News. Protest against Rona measures in France, Australia highlight controversy. Tens and thousands across the globe protested this weekend against Rona measures being implemented, including mandatory vaccination and France's newly approved health pass. Correspondent Elizabeth Palmer reports on regulations abroad and the protests by those who claim the measures aimed at facilitating a return to normal life are a threat to their civil liberties. Absolutely. So let's see, family. Let's play a little bit of this.
In multiple countries over the weekend to oppose new restrictions on people who do not get their vaccines. Demonstrations in Paris turned violent, as you see, over a law requiring people to show that they've been vaccinated or tested negative to enter restaurants, planes, and other public spaces. Australia, Italy, and the UK also had protests. Elizabeth Palmer has more on this story.
Thousands of demonstrators came out on Saturday in Paris to protest against stricter anti-COVID measures. When the scuffles turned violent, the police used tear gas to disperse the crowd. But that public anger didn't deter French legislators.
Le projet de loi est adopté.
They passed a law last night that will make vaccines mandatory for health workers and vaccine passports essential to get into museums, cinemas, and festivals.
Now, mind you, that passport, shout out to early on, content creators said they felt that that's what they would eventually push for. That is exactly what those early on, those content creators said. They had a feeling that they were going to be pushing for passports that authorize you to travel if you have the vax.
Outside the Louvre Museum on the weekend, checks were already underway, which took Nellie Breton off guard. At first, I was furious, she said, but then I calmed down and realized there were medical reasons to be rigorous. Over at the Eiffel Tower, the system was working smoothly, everyone showing either an electronic proof of vaccination or a hard copy. And for those who didn't...
Y'all see that? Okay.
Have either one, there was rapid on-site testing. So anyone who had a ticket could enjoy the views from this famous landmark newly reopened after 9 months. All across Europe there have been demonstrations. In Athens, where the Greek government has said health workers have no choice but to get fully vaccinated. And in Italy, where a peaceful crowd marched against the vaccine passports they'll soon need for places like gyms and museums and for indoor dining. As tourism comes to life again in Europe, people may not love the new rules, but they do believe they're better than another lockdown. And evidence from France shows that they are definitely boosting vaccinations among the reluctant. I didn't want to, admitted Ruben Ben Amran, but there are now just too many restrictions.
You hear that? That's what this is all about. I didn't want to, but there's too many restrictions.
People like Ruben may be more interested in getting a vaccine passport than getting the vaccine itself, but to public health officials, that counts as a win.
Now, here in Britain, there are no vaccine passports yet. But Prime Minister Boris Johnson has warned they're coming in September for, among other crowded places, nightclubs. And already the nightclub owners are not happy. They're pushing back. They say we've been hammered by this pandemic. This is just going to make everything worse. Anthony?
All right, family. You heard it. So get ready. Of course, they are testing it over in Europe first to see how it shakes out. Now, the thing about Europe, they be ready to get their protests on, honey. They do not, no blanks are given on their part. They be ready to get their protest on, specifically in France. They'll protest at the drop of a dime. So what a great first testing ground. Australia, since this whole thing unfolded, they've been very, very vocal because in Australia, they had a lot of, their lockdown was very much so restricted, and they protested heavily over there as well. So get ready. We will keep an eye on this. We will keep a watch on this. This is really going to show what folk are made of. Now, again, I'm not advocating either way. What you do with your body, that is your right. Okay? No shame on my part if you do decide to get the vac. That's your business. Just as it's other folk business to not get it. So just wanted to give you all this update because I find that very, very interesting that France was able to approve it. You might as well say within 2 days, and then they're going to be slack about it and do it over the weekend. So get prepared, family. I hope all is well with you. This is Rhonda with WTUZ Radio Podcast. Peace and love, family.